everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maura and I'm a physical therapist and certified yoga teacher. Today's practice is an ankle flexibility flow. So if you're experiencing some tightness in your calves or some stiffness in your ankles, you'll definitely want to save this one to come back to frequently. This practice will combine some yoga movements with some more traditional mobility movements for ankle flexibility. As always, please make sure that it is safe for you to be practicing yoga and that you're always listening to your body. If you're interested in learning more about ankle and calf tightness, I'll link a few of my blog articles in the description box below where you can find in-depth information about these topics. I have a set of yoga blocks with me today, as well as a strap for some calf stretching a little bit later in the practice. So let's get started. First, come onto your knees and just sit back on your feet. Now, this may be enough of a stretch for you already through the front of the ankles, but if you'd like to deepen it, sit up a little taller and then just gently lift one knee until you feel a comfortable stretch in the front of the ankle. Put that side down and then repeat with the opposite side. If you'd like to get a little more stability here, or if your flexibility is limited, you can place your blocks next to you just for a little more leverage. We'll go 2 more on each side. And again, if just sitting in this position is enough for you, then just stay there. Don't worry about lifting your knees. Good. Relax, come into a tabletop position, hands under shoulders and knees under hips. Just give those feet a little bit of a shake. Maybe roll your ankles out a bit and then tuck your toes underneath you. Now this may be enough of a stretch through the foot and the big toe. But if you'd like a little more, you can sit your heels back, not a full toe squat, but just pressing into the feet. And then bring yourself back up to tabletop. Let's do 3 more times like this, just warming up the feet and the big toe. Big toe extension is also important for the gait cycle, which can contribute to ankle and calf tightness. One more time, shift it forward and then shift your hips back. If you'd like to go a little bit deeper, you can sit up into a toe squat, or you can just bring your palms forward and just bring the chest down as you press the hips back into the feet. Slowly bring yourself back up. Just bring your hands slightly in. We're going to take this into a little flow with a downward facing dog. So shift up and then send your hips up and back. Press the heels down. Stretch through the calf. And then bend your knees and come back down to the mat. Sit your hips back. Get a little stretch in the feet. Lift up, send your hips up and back, press through downward facing dog. And then bend your knees, come back down, sit your hips back. Let's do that 2 more times. Shift back up, press, lift your hips, press those heels down. Bend the knees, come back down to the mat, sit the hips back, a little more stretching through the toes. Last one, lift the hips up and back, press the calves down. Take 3 deep breaths here. Bring your knees back down and just come to a seated position. We're going to go through a couple of controlled articular rotations, sometimes known as CARs. So with your right ankle, just cross it over the opposite side, and we're gonna go through all of the motions that the ankle does in a nice circle. You're gonna try to go as slow as you can, but maintain control. And you might notice during some parts of the range of motion that it gets a little hitchy. That should improve with working on this particular activity. So let's start clockwise, just moving through that range of motion, drawing a circle. You can flex or point your toes. You can try both and see the differences in sensation, what's easier for you. Just go as slow as you can, but as controlled as you can. One more clockwise with the right. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds to isolate these movements. And then stop at the top. Let's go the opposite direction, counterclockwise. Just moving through a full circle. And take note if there's any parts along this arc that feel painful or stiff. Last circle here. And release. Switch sides. And going to the opposite ankle. Let's start with clockwise first. Nice and slow and controlled. Loosening up that joint. Getting a sense for what it feels like to move through full mobility here. Last one. Now stop at the top, take it counterclockwise. Try not to move your lower leg, your knee, or your hip. Just all of the motion is coming from the ankle. Isolating is a lot trickier than it sounds. And release. Good. Just give your feet a little shake out. Let's come back onto hands and knees. And we're going to come back into a downward facing dog. So bring your hands about a palm print forward, then underneath your shoulders. Tuck your toes, send your hips up and back, and just pedal your feet. You'll get a slightly deeper stretch in the calf when working on one side at a time. If you also feel like tight hamstrings are limiting you from being able to get your heels down, a great option here is to take some blocks and just elevate your hands. It just really changes the angles of the body. It might make it easier for you if you're dealing with some stiffness in other places. One more pedal here, and then we're going to stop and just bring the knees down. We're going to go into some heel raises, so just give your wrists a break because we'll be in downward dog for another minute or so. Don't forget to breathe. So when you're ready, press up and back into your downward facing dog, and then through both legs, come up high on your toes using your calf muscles here, and then slowly lower yourself all the way back down. Press through those heels when you get there. Maybe try and lift up the toes if you can. Come up on your toes. Lower down, and you could even do this one side at a time if you're looking for a little more challenge here. Two more. Come up on your toes, lower down. Press those heels in. Last time. Just notice the difference in sensations through the rest of the leg as you work through some of this range of motion. Good. Bring your knees back down. Shake out your hands. Now let's come into sort of a low lunge variation with a little bit more ankle mobility. So this is different than a traditional yoga low lunge. I'm just going to use some blocks here to help create some more space. So take your right foot and put it toward the front of your mat. Now, normally in low lunge, we do say to keep the knee over the ankle, but for this particular purpose, I want to get deeper into ankle range of motion. So I'm going to translate that knee as far as I can comfortably while maintaining the heel on the ground. Now, if there is any discomfort in the knee, you might want to back off a little, but otherwise, if you want a little more, you can take your hand and even press into the knee to get deeper into that ankle dorsiflexion. Just make sure that you're keeping the heel flat on the ground. And then flow it back, just coming into a half splits just for a second. Plant that foot, translate it forward again, add that pressure if you want to get a little deeper. Shift it up and back, half splits. One more time, plant that foot, really press into the heel, translate that knee forward, give it a little pressure if you want. And then sit it back, one more half splits. Let's just take 2 deep breaths here. Get a little bonus hamstring stretching. Bend that knee and tuck that leg back to meet the other. Let's repeat that low lunge sequence on the left side. And bringing the left foot forward, press the heel down, and then you might need to walk your blocks forward, but then shift the knee forward, keeping that heel down. Again, if you'd like to add a little bit of pressure, if that feels okay, go ahead and do that to really mobilize that ankle. This is a common mobility drill for getting more range of motion. And you might notice, flow it back, half splits. You might notice that things feel very different from side to side. If one side is excessively tight, you might want to give that side a little bit more attention. Plant that foot again, shift forward, keep that heel down, try to isolate that ankle dorsiflexion. Sit it back, half splits. One more time on this side. Translate that foot forward. And then shift it back, half splits. Let's take 2 deep breaths here. And then go ahead and tuck that leg back. Give your wrists a little roll out. We're going to come into a malasana squat. There are several variations of this. I use a block under my hips. If you have lots of range of motion and you don't need the block, that's perfectly fine. And if you have some tightness in your hips and ankles and you need to stack 2 blocks, that's also perfectly fine. Do what works for you to get the best stretch that you need. So I'm going to place my block at the top of the mat, and then I'm going to bring my feet almost mat width apart, turned out slightly. And then you'll want to bend your knees and sit down onto your block. Now here, I want to try and keep my heels flat on the floor if our goal is to get a little more flexibility in the ankles. And I'm actually going to walk the heels a little bit closer so that I can get that. So get yourself situated, take your elbows, press them on the insides of the knees so that you can rotate those hips outward, and then just shift your weight side to side into the left foot and then into the right foot. Just go back and forth a couple of times, kind of getting a 2-for-1 with hip mobility here and ankle mobility. And like I said, using the blocks, I don't have enough range of motion to come all the way down without rounding my back a lot and really compensating, and I want to maintain that good posture, so I'm going to use the block. Upright the chest. Take a really deep breath here. If you'd like a challenge to get out of this, you can raise your hands over your head and see if you can shift your weight forward and press up while maintaining your posture. If you don't want that challenge, just put your hands behind you, slide off your block, and move it off to the side. Whatever you're looking for today. So let's swing those legs around and come into another downward dog stretch, and just notice how your ankles are feeling now going through some of these stretches versus when you came on the mat today. So plant your hands a little bit forward of your shoulders, tuck your toes, and lift up to downward dog. Really press that chest forward, relax the head, make sure it's in between the biceps. Press into those heels. And let's just take the feet a little bit wider. Notice how that changes any sensations. And then keep the toes where they are. Just turn the heels out slightly. Again, just another variation to get into a different spot of the calf muscles. Turn those feet back to parallel. Take one more deep breath here. Slowly let it out on your exhale. And bring your knees back down to the ground. One more thing today. Take that strap that you had, and we'll just do a little more calf stretching. Place it underneath the right foot, about the height of the ball of the foot. If you'd like, you can double it up or wrap it around your hands for a better grip. Try and leave the leg down on the mat. Take a deep inhale, and on your exhale, draw that foot closer to you, feeling a stretch through the calf. And in this position, you may also feel some creeping up the back of the hamstring, and that's fine too. If you have excessive tightness in the hamstring and you feel like that's limiting you, you can go ahead and just pop that knee a little bit to try and isolate the calf. You'll get less of the gastroc and more of the soleus calf muscle doing it this way, but it might increase your comfort level. Take one more deep inhale and exhale here, and then we'll switch to the other side. And release. Switch feet, putting the strap underneath the ball of the foot. Sit up nice and tall. Take a deep inhale, and then on your exhale, pull that foot toward you. One more inhale and exhale here. Remember your options of bending the knee. And release. Just put your strap over to the side. We'll just take a deep breath to finish out this practice. Bring your arms over your head. Inhale all the way as deep as you can. And then exhale, hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me for this ankle flexibility flow. Do check out the articles in the description box for some more information about ankle and calf tightness and some additional resources. If you liked this flow, definitely save it and come back to it. And you can also check out this other flexibility flow, which will be popping up right here. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know how it went for you. And I hope to see you again. See you next time.